Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me. Today I wanted to talk to you about getting out of your head and into your craft room. This video is about opening up that box, that new machine, that new toy that you were so excited to get, but you have been too overwhelmed to open up the box and get started playing. So often we get these new toys, we're so excited to get it, and then we're frozen with fear of opening the box and actually taking the time and learning the machine and starting out. These are just a few of my opinions and things that I thought might help someone else get over that fear and open that box, because I want you to have fun in your craft room. I want you to enjoy that new machine because it's so much fun. It's a box of fun waiting for you. So the first piece of advice I have is it's not that serious. It really isn't. This is crafting. We are not saving lives. We are not, solving world problems. This is crafting. So the worst thing that's going to happen, you're going to run a piece of paper, you're going to run some cardstock, you're going to run some fabric, you're going to mess up something. But so what? Who cares? It's a piece of paper, it's a piece of fabric. It's nothing that life-altering that it should paralyze you. You are likely going to make some mistakes, and you are likely going to mess up a piece of paper or a piece of fabric. That's all part of learning. I've done it. I still do it. We all do it. Any crafter that tells you that they never make a mistake is not telling you the truth. I don't know any crafter that does say that. So really, it's not that serious. Don't be so paralyzed by a machine sitting in a box that you're afraid to open it. What do you have to lose? The next piece of advice I have is to set realistic expectations. If you just got a Cricut, don't promise your friend that you're going to make them 100 wedding invitations by next Friday. Or if you just got an embroidery machine, don't commit to embroidering your cousin's business's shirts by next Friday. That's just too much pressure. You need to allow yourself the time to learn the machine and get comfortable with it before you take on big projects. You need to have realistic expectations of what those first few projects might look like. You need to start with something simple, which leads me to the next point, which is learn the basics first. The first thing when you get a Cricut, get it, do that beginner project right out of the box, and then practice. Cut some circles, cut some triangles, press some buttons, see what happens. Learn the basics, learn the software, learn the machine. If you got an embroidery machine, practice on some fabric and, type out some names. Or if you got a sewing machine, start just stitching some straight lines, some curved lines, just get the feel of the machine. Whatever it is, learn the basics of the machine before you try to do an advanced project. And I'm not saying that you can't do an advanced project right away, but you need to understand how the machine works. You need to understand how it feels. You need to understand what those buttons do so that if you do run into a problem, you can correct it. So start with the basics of your machine. Don't start with a huge project. If you've got a Cricut, don't make your first project be a 6-foot wall hanging of Mickey Mouse. It's a big project. Can it be done? It can, but it's not a good project to start with. You want to start with something simple, and the simple is cutting out a circle, cutting out a name, cutting out something manageable. Again, with the embroidery, start with a name. With sewing, start with stitching. Whatever it is, you've got to learn to crawl before you can walk. So learn the basics first. Set realistic expectations. The next thing I want to talk about is finding a community of support, whether that be a Facebook group, whether it be YouTube. I go to YouTube when I'm learning a new craft. I am a researcher. I go to YouTube and I will find video after video after video on the topic that I am trying to learn. But whatever works for you, whether it's blog post or whatever, you need to have a community of like-minded people or a community of people who understand your craft that can help you. There's nothing more frustrating than working on something, trying to learn something, and then having to stop and wait for a callback from someone to help you get out of a jam or to help you figure out what's gone wrong or to troubleshoot. So having that community of people really, really helps. I have a community of sewing and embroidery Facebook group. I have a community of Cricut Facebook groups. I actually have two. I have a community, a Facebook group that is focused on sublimation, iron-on, that type of community. And then I have one for Craft Crazy, which is just for all different crafts. And in those groups, everybody likes to help one another. And if you are a person who likes YouTube videos, everybody learns differently. Some people like live videos, some people like edited videos, some people like just a quick summary, some people want very detailed instructions. And if you're the first video you watch and you're still confused, look for another one. There are so many videos for all the various crafts on YouTube. So if the first one doesn't make you feel confident or doesn't make you understand or leaves you frustrated, look for another one. I always have to laugh when I see content creators on YouTube or wherever label their videos as the best, because one, I think it's quite arrogant, to be honest, but two, it's not for us, the content creator, to label our video the best. The best video is a video that works for you, and the best video that works for you might be a totally different video that works for your friend or that works for me or works for whoever, because we all learn differently. So if you watch a video and it says the best and you feel frustrated and you think, I just watched the best video, now what do I do? Look for another one, because the best video is actually the best video that helps you understand, or the best blog post, or the best Facebook group. So if the community that you have joined, or the community that you're watching, or the blogs that you're following aren't helping you, find some other ones. There are so many outlets to find help. On Instagram, search the hashtag, search hashtag embroidery, search hashtag Cricut, and you will find tons of people who are like-minded crafters, and you can click on their post, click on their profile, see if they have a Facebook page, see if they have a Facebook group, see who they're following. It will lead you through finding help. Again, Facebook, search the topic, search embroidery, search your particular machine. If you have a Cricut Maker, search Cricut Maker. If you have a Janome Embroidery Machine, search Janome Embroidery Machine, and you will find Facebook groups very specific to what you're trying to learn. Or you could do a broader spectrum and search embroidery on Facebook, and you'll find a group of just people that have all different kinds of embroidery machines, and they're just talking generalities and sharing inspiration. So look for a community of support that can help you when you need help, and don't be afraid to ask questions. I know in my Facebook groups, the members are always helping new beginner people, new beginner crafters with problems and troubleshooting. The next one is the old cliche, you're your own worst critic. Don't let yourself keep you from enjoying a craft. It is so easy to put ourselves down and say, well, this doesn't look as good as that one I saw on Instagram, or this doesn't look as good as the one that she made on the tutorial. The person that made that on Instagram or made it on the tutorial has been doing it for a while, or they probably wouldn't be making a tutorial. So don't beat yourself up if it's taking you longer than you expected. Don't beat yourself up if you need to understand the process, you need it explained a couple different times, or whatever. You're your own worst critic. This is, again, it's not that serious. Don't let your fear of or frustration keep you from learning something that's going to bring you so much joy. And the reason you're frustrated is because you're criticizing yourself, and that just doesn't have any part of crafting. You can't be a critic in crafting. It's just not part of the process. You have to be your biggest fan, your biggest supporter, and your biggest cheerleader. So stop criticizing how long it's taken you to learn, or stop criticizing the quality of your first project, or stop criticizing the fact that you messed up a piece of paper. I still mess up everything. I have mistakes all the time. I was doing an embroidery project yesterday, and it absolutely went 5 ways sideways. Does that make sense? It just went wrong in every which direction, and it was all my fault, but it was just one of those days, and it happens. And you know what, I just moved on. Don't worry about it. So don't be overly critical of your own learning process. The next piece of advice is a pretty easy one, and start with scrap materials. Don't go out and buy a $100 jean jacket and think your first embroidery project should be embroidering on the back of that $100 jacket. You're going to get frustrated if it doesn't come out perfectly, and that's going to discourage you from keep learning. Start with a piece of fabric. Get a fat quarter from Walmart. Cut up an old sheet. Get an old shirt. Whatever it is, just practice on scraps. Same with the Cricut. Don't put your very favorite piece of cardstock that you spend a lot of money on the mat for your very first project. Go, get some scrap cardstock. I can tell you Walmart has color box cardstock, and it comes in like a tablet, 12 by 12 sheets, cuts like butter on the Cricut. And it's very inexpensive. I think it's $5 for 25 or 50 sheets, something like that, but it's pretty inexpensive. Put that on your mat and use that to learn the machine. Use that to play or for your test projects. That's another thing. Do test projects before you start with something big. But don't start with expensive items. If you're doing sublimation, don't put your $50 sublimatable sweatshirt, hoodie, for your very first project. Start with some polyester fabric. You can pick that up again at Walmart. I found like 2 yards in the remnant bin for, I think it was $5. You could get just a polyester t-shirt, a cheapy t-shirt, and let that be your test t-shirt. I still have a test t-shirt that I use all the time. It actually started because I actually put a design on upside down by accident. So now I use that whenever I need to test something or see how vibrant it's going to print, or if it's going to look right, or I'm not sure how something's going to work. I just pull that t-shirt out. That's my test shirt, and I practice on that. So start with practice scrap materials, whether you're using, a Cricut embroidery machine, sewing machine, whatever. Scrap, scrap, scrap for your very first projects and for practicing. Next, celebrate your successes. You have already opened up the box. If you're watching this video, you're already investing some of your time into figuring out how you might be able to get using that machine. So celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that you made a mistake. That means you actually have it out of the box now and you're trying. Celebrate the fact that you made your very first card. Celebrate that you made your very first embroidery name on a piece of scrap fabric. Those are all big wins, because each one of those successes leads you to the next success and the next success. And before you know it, you'll be off and running. Again, you got to walk before you crawl. So celebrate all of those steps that took you to get to walking. Did I say you got to walk before you crawl? That's not what I meant. You got to crawl before you walk. But anyway, celebrate all of the steps that it takes you to get there, because each one is a win. And whether it's just that you cut out a circle on your Cricut, you have now opened the box, you have now made your first project, and you have now figured out how to cut out a circle. So win, win, win. You've had several successes already. So start with celebrating your successes. Next, expect mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. I kind of touched on this earlier, but expect them. Know that you're going to likely make mistakes. There's going to be some problems along the way, and that's all part of it. Again, you're still making progress into learning the machine if you're making mistakes. So expect that you're going to make mistakes. Know that you're going to make mistakes. Even advanced users are still making mistakes. So it's part of the process. Don't beat yourself up. Big deal. You messed up a piece of cardstock. You made a mistake. So what? Start over. My next piece of advice is to invest the time to learn the machine or the project or whatever craft you're trying to learn. You need to understand that you have to invest the time. So if that box sitting there in your mind is telling you, well, I don't have time, I need about 3 days straight with no kids before I can even open that box, that's never going to happen. So break it up. You can invest the time without spending an entire day. Maybe day one, you just get it out of the box, you get all the cords hooked up, you get everything set up. Day two, do the out-of-the-box project. Do something simple. Day 3, something else. And so on. Once you get started, I promise you, time's going to slip away and you're going to find that you've somehow found that time to do it. But break it up. If it seems so overwhelming to you to open up that Cricut and to make a card, you're so frozen by that, just open it up, get the box put away, set the machine up wherever it's going to live, and get it plugged up and ready to go. And then commit to the next day, spending another 20 minutes to a half an hour and do the next step. And if you break it up like that, I can almost guarantee that day 2, you're going to do that first project, and then you're going to be a little bit more curious and you're going to do a little bit more, and so on. And before you know it, your family's going to be screaming at you because you have been in your craft room for hours. So time will get away from you. But break it up. If it's so overwhelming to do it all in one day, break it up. Just start. That's the most important part. And the last tip that I have to get out of your head and into your craft room is it doesn't have to be perfect to be fun. Your first project is likely not going to be perfect, but if you had fun making it, who cares? My projects are still not perfect. I never make anything perfect. I am not a perfectionist, but so what? Nobody's going to notice that unless you tell them. Nobody's going to even see it. If you make a card and you hand that to somebody, I can almost guarantee you the first thing they're going to say is, "You made this? How cool is that?" They're not going to look and see that maybe the front's on a little crooked, or you put your tape got a little slappy, or your glue. If you give somebody an embroidered pot holder, they're not going to be looking at the fact that maybe you got your design a little off center. That's just not going to happen. You're going to notice that. Again, you're your own worst critic. But unless you point that out, they're not going to notice that. If your stitches aren't all perfectly straight, who cares? I can go buy a piece of clothing at Nordstrom and I can look at the stitches and see that they're not all perfectly straight. So get that out of your head. It does not have to be perfect to be fun. And if you're having fun, who cares? It's not that serious. So that's really all I have, is get out of your head, get into your craft room, open those boxes, learn those machines, have fun, give yourself a break. Just start creating. And that's the whole point behind this video, is just to start creating, and don't be so fearful of something sitting in a box, because there's a lot more things to be fearful of, but what's sitting in that box isn't one of them. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any tips or things that you think might help a new crafter in learning a new project, leave them in the comments below. There's just so many more things to be afraid of in this world than crafting, and I just want to give you that extra little push, maybe a little encouragement, inspiration, something. If it helps one person, it did its job. But just don't be afraid to enjoy your craft room, enjoy your crafting. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't take it so seriously. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect to be fun. Thanks so much for watching. Never stop making. Bye.